Okay, let me repeat this. So SDLC stands for Software Development Lifecycle. So based upon the requirements given from the client, so they will do some analysis initially. They will collect, okay, what possible ways we can implement this. So this kind of analysis they will do, and then they go for a design. Okay, what type of language we can use, what type of tools we can use, these kind of applications, I mean application server that we have to use, like Tomcat, web server, WebSphere. There are different types of web applications we have, right? So they will design, they will decide, okay, which application server we have to use. So this entire flow they will be designing, and then they will hand over to the developers, and developers will start developing that application. Once the application development is done, then they will hand over the code to testing people, and these testing people will do some kind of testing on top of your code. Okay, and then they'll deploy it on the application servers, and then we will be evaluating the final output. And once it is running fine and working fine, then we'll be deploying it on the production server, and this application will be out for service. Okay, so this is what the entire flow, what SDLC is going to have. Now I'm going to explain you about a flow called waterfall method. Okay, let me, yeah. So waterfall method. So as you know that water flows from top to bottom. So that's the reason here the flow will also be from the top to bottom. So that's the reason they called it as waterfall method. Let's assume I supposed to develop an application. So on the left side, you see is a mobile phone hosting some application on it, and you see there are different buttons. Okay, so I see here total 9 buttons we have. Now these buttons are supposed to develop some work, like for example, if I click on the first button, so that first button will execute some task, and the second button will have its own functionality and it will execute some other task. So each button will have its own functionality, right? Now client has given me the requirement about all these 9 buttons, and I have to implement this application which is having all the 9 buttons. First, let's talk about a waterfall method. So I'll explain you how we are going to implement the same application using a waterfall method. Now, in a waterfall method, we are going to develop the entire application at a time. Okay, so the entire application, in the sense, the application which is having all the 9 buttons and 9 functionalities. So developers are supposed to write a functionality for each and every button. Like if I click on first button, it has to execute some task. If I click on second button, it has to execute some other task. So these functionalities will be written by the developers. Now, if I go with the flow, now I need to gather all the requirements related to these all 9 buttons from the client, and based on that, I'll have to do some kind of analysis. Here, system engineers work will be like gathering information from the client. So these guys will directly interact with client, and they will get the inputs from the client. Okay, and then they will hand over to the architects. Generally, analysis and design will be taken care by architects. Okay, so these guys will do some kind of analysis, and then we go with a design flow, and this will be handed over to the development team. So development team will write the code, and then it will be handed over to the testing team, and then finally it will go to the maintenance team. So maintenance, in the sense, the application server maintenance. Okay, so this is what the entire flow. If you observe, this is nothing but a software development life cycle itself. But here we are developing this entire application at a time. So because of this reason, we have some backdrops of waterfall method. I'll explain. So if you observe here, after completion of one task, then only it is going to hand over to the next team. Like the every stage, if you observe, so these stages are working in a sequential order. So after completion of one stage, then only it will start with the next stage. And after completion of second stage, it will go with the third stage. So in that way, in a sequential order, we are doing. So because of this reason, 100% utilization of a resource, okay, resource in the sense employee. So 100% utilization of an employee is not possible here. Like for example, let's take a person who is working in a testing team. So this guy will start working once this code is ready. Okay, whatever the code that we have with the developer. So once this entire code is ready, then only this testing team will start working. Until then, these guys won't have any other work and they will simply sit idle. And after once the testing completes, then only the maintenance team will come into the picture. Am I right? So 100% utilization of a resource is not possible over here. So that's the first major backdrop. And the second one, as also you see, after completion of one task, we are executing the second one. After completion of the second task, then we go for the third one. So in a sequential order. That means the application development duration will be too high. Okay, the total time taken in order to develop this application will be high. That's the second drawback. And the third drawback is, as we are sending a huge bulk of code at a time, because as you see here, you are sending all these 9 buttons related application code at a time. Okay, we are sending all these 9 buttons functionalities at a time. So because of that reason, it will be very difficult to identify bugs. For example, if I give you 10 lines of code and if I ask you to find out some bug in it, it will be very easy for you. But when I give you 1000 lines of code and if I ask you to find out bug in it, it will be a bit difficult. I'm not saying impossible, but it's difficult to identify it. So that's the third backdrop. So because of these three major reasons, so all the software companies came up with a new methodology called Agile Method. Okay, so Agile Method is going to look like this. So in Agile, what we are going to do is we are going to split. Okay, so whatever the requirements, total requirements that we have, so these requirements I'm going to split into parts. Okay, part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, and so on. So in each part, I'm going to develop 1 or 2 buttons based upon the requirement. Okay, so these parts we call it as sprints. Okay, each and every part we call it as sprint, and the duration of the sprint will be vary some projects they will be using 2 weeks and some projects they'll follow 1 month. So that depends upon their manager design, I mean their flow design. Okay, so now first we need to make it into parts. Like for example, I have total 9 buttons, right? So these 9 buttons I'm going to make it into parts, like two in each sprint, like first 2 buttons and the next 2 buttons, something like that. Now what I want to do is, after making it into parts, I need to make an order based on the priority. Okay, so based on the priority I have to make an order. So which button are more important, so that those buttons I have to pick first. So based on the priority I'll make it in an order, and I'll start working on the first sprint. Okay, first part. Okay, so here if you observe, this is also executing with the same flow where we have a software development life cycle, the same flow here, but we are only working on a specific part of your code. I mean specific part of your application, not the code, specific part of your application, not the entire application. We are only concentrating on a specific application code. Now what we'll do, we'll gather only the information related to those buttons, and the design will be taking care of that, and then developers will start working on that, and then the testing and the deployment. Okay, the same flow. After completion of the particular sprint, then we'll go with the next sprint. So here, if you observe, 100% of utilization of a resource will be possible here. In waterfall, it's not possible, but here it's possible. I'll tell you how. Let's assume a testing guy. Okay, this guy, he has to wait until the first sprint starts. So once the sprint started, so I mean, this guy will be working on the first sprint. Meantime, developers will start working on the second sprint development part, so that by the time of closing this particular task, they can start working on the second sprint task. Okay, so 100% utilization of a resource is possible in Agile, and also the duration will be very low when compared with waterfall method. Okay, so because here, if you observe, multiple tasks are happening in a parallel way, not in a sequential order. It's happening in a parallel path. So because of that reason, so the duration, so if for waterfall method, if it is taking 100, I mean 100 days, so we can easily make it into 50 or 60 days. So almost 40% of the days we can save it, because of that reason we can also increase the productivity of your application. So productivity in the sense, you can focus on the new features that we are supposed to add to this application. Okay, so these are the advantages, and also you are only concentrating on a one particular piece of code. Because of that reason, the number of lines of your code will be reduced, and it will be easy to identify bugs. So this is also a main important reason. So whatever the drawbacks that we have with waterfall method, we are able to overcome with Agile method. Okay, the reason why I am explaining you with Agile, so DevOps follows Agile. So in interview point of view, they'll definitely ask you what is meant by Agile and Agile concepts. So that's the reason why I'm explaining this Agile and all. Okay. So till now, do you guys have any sort of questions? Please ask me. Otherwise, I'll continue with the session. Any questions?
No, from my side.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, then I'll continue. If in case if you have any sort of questions, please feel free to ask me. So we'll continue then. So these are the differences which I have already mentioned. So the same thing. And now let's talk about DevOps. So as the name itself indicates, Dev stands for development and Ops stands for operation. So first, let me explain what's the manual approach they're used to follow before DevOps. Okay, first of all, let me explain the flow. Whenever a developer develops a code, this code has to go through some different process in order to reach that particular application to the production server. So the flow will be like, so there will be a team. We can also call him as a build and release engineer. They used to call him as a build and release engineer earlier. And this role, the main agenda of this role will be like, whenever developers done with his code, he has to take that code and he need to go through some kind of build process. So this build process, why do we require build? In the sense, whatever the code developed by the developer will be in a text formatted file. Okay, it's a purely a text formatted file. Like if it is a Java code, if I open Java, I can see whatever the text I have in it. Okay, but if you observe, when you're trying to install some application, so you're not going to get a text formatted file. You're going to get a binary formatted file. Have you tried installing some applications on your Windows laptop? You're not getting any sort of code, right? You're getting a files. Either it can be an extension with .exe or .msi. So these are the two binary formats for Windows. The same way in Linux, we might have a different I mean, different binary formats like jar, var, car, different types of formats that we have. Okay. But especially on Windows, if you want to run some or if you want to install some application, you can either have a .exe or .msi. These are the two major formats. Okay. So now this code has to be converted into a binary formatted file. So how this has to be, I mean, how this is happening. So this will be happening when your code is compiled. Okay. So when your code is compiled, then only you are going to get your binary formatted file. So this build and release engineer will take care of that. Okay. They'll take the code and they will compile it and they will generate an artifact. So this binary formatted output file, we call it as artifact. Okay, this artifact they will deploy it into various environments. So they don't deploy application directly on the production server. So what they will do is initially they will deploy it on development server, which will be under control of developers, and then this application will be tested by the developers because they know what they are doing. So initial testing will be taken care by the developers itself. So they will check whether this application is running properly or not, or whether this application is display, I mean, whatever the content that we added, so this application is displaying in a proper way or not. So that kind of testing they are going to do. And then if they feel that okay, this application is working fine, then they will hand over this application to a testing server. Now the same binary file will deploy it on a testing server. So on the testing server, they will execute some kind of test scenarios. Either it can be a manual testing or a automation testing, whatever. So they will execute some test scenarios on top of it. And once this testing team is also done with their work, they are going to deploy this application on a higher level application servers. Okay, there also we are going to do the testing only. We will be observing performance testing and other things. Okay, and now we will be doing this application deployment on a pre-prod server. So pre-prod server will almost similar to production server, like whatever the configurations that we have with the production server, the same type of configuration that we used to maintain. So configurations in the sense RAM, memory, and other details. Okay, for example, if your production server is running on 32 GB RAM, so your pre-prod server will also having 32 GB. So they'll always try to maintain a replicate. Okay, now we will install this application on this pre-prod server and we observe this application behavior for 24 to 48 hours. Okay, if you feel that okay, this application is working fine on the pre-prod servers, then the same application will be deployed to the production server. So this is what the entire flow that someone has to take care. This is what the manual process, I mean to say. Okay, so in between, if there are any issues, again this flow will go from the beginning, like we will be handovering to the developers and developers will do keep on doing modifications in it, and again they have to follow the same entire flow. Okay, so in order to do this particular task, even though you are following an agile method, it is used to take a lot of time. We are killing lot of time in between this manual process. So then, and also one more thing we have to remember, earlier this build will be taken care by a developers, someone from the developer team, he will be taking care of this building part, and this deployment part will be taken care by the operation side. Some of the guys from an operation team, they has to do this deployment in the different environments. So earlier there is no communication between these two teams in a proper way. So developers they will keep on developing the application, and these guys will keep on deploying their application once they get it. But there won't be any proper communication. Because of that mismatch of this communication, what happens? This application, even though the application was ready from the development point of view, it will reach it will reach to the operation guys after many days. So because of that reason, your application is development is going to be delayed. Okay, so because of this reason, what we are doing, we are bringing this development team and an operation team together, and we are making them to work on a single platform so that each and every team member will be having a transparency. So developers team will come to know what operation guys are doing, and operation guys will come to know what developers are doing. So this kind of transparency we are maintaining. And also, what instead of doing the manual task, we are automating this process. So we are whenever developers check in the code, it will automatically trigger the pipeline or trigger some flow where it will build and it will generate an artifact, and this artifact will be deployed on some lower environments. So this entire flow will be automated so that we don't require any other resource to take care of this. Okay, so because of that reason, whatever the manual approach that we are following, that manual work got reduced. So because of that reason, the application delivery time will also be reduced. Okay, that's the main goal of using DevOps. Is it clear? So what we are doing, we are collaborating both development team and an operation team together, and we are asking them to work on a single platform so that everyone will have a transparency in between. And developers and operation guys here in a kind of automation, we are making them to work together. Is it clear? So do you guys have any questions?
Yeah, Suresh. Sorry. Yeah, Surya. I have one question. Vivek
Yeah,
here.
yeah,
Surya, do we need any language also regarding this?
yes. So we follow different languages. So in some cases we use shell scripting if you are working on a Linux based environment. In some cases we use Groovy. In some cases we use YAML. So these are the major languages that we are going to concentrate. And don't worry, so as part of this course, we are also dealing with this kind of stuff.
Okay.
Hi, Surya.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah, just so you mean to say that to enter into the DevOps domain, you mean to have we should have a development background, or how it will be?
To be frank, if you want to be a part of development, I mean DevOps, so we don't really require a development background because even I'm also not from a development background. Um, so you can easily enter, but the thing is like you should have a basics, okay? Because
Think, yeah.
feel if we are trying to automate some process, first of all, here
Mhm.
also we have to follow Agile method only. So as part of
Okay.
Agile, what we have to do, we need to gather the requirements. So
Mm.
if I'm a new person who came into this project, and immediately what I have to do, I need to go and get in touch with this development team, and I need to gather the
Okay.
information from them, what they're exactly
Okay.
doing. Okay, what's the flow you're following? What are all the
Mm.
commands that you are using? So you have to gather all those requirements. Based on that
Okay.
only, you're going to start implementing this automation.
Okay. The thing is what? So I'm currently working in the different domain, means in non-IT in core industries. So I'm
Okay.
planning to switch my domain actually.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
was
you can.
planning about job in AWS.
Yes, we have lot of opportunities on DevOps, so that's the one good thing. And the other thing is like you have to concentrate on few tools. I mean, not few tools. I mean to say there are a lot of tools, but
Okay.
the other advantage is like whenever you're stepping into any project, so
Mm-hmm.
they don't ask you to work on a specific tool immediately because some people will have experience working on that tool and some people will don't have experience working on those. So they'll at
Okay.
least give you some time to understand about the tool, and they'll keep on giving you some kind of KT and some lot of. Initially, you will be getting some time to learn those tools.
Okay. So it
Yes,
means totally, see, totally, it is, we can switch it, no issues for my, there's
yes.
no need of development background
But
or anything, IT
initially,
background.
you should have a. I mean, initially you should work hard to understand the concepts because
Yes.
each and every concept are important here. So if you are
Okay.
happy, if you understand the concept, then you can start working on any tool. See, tool in the sense, for example, if I understand the concept of build, why we are using this build concept and all. So if I am
Mhm.
aware of this build part, then it will
Mhm.
be easy. Either I can use Maven, I can use Gradle, I can use MS build, whatever. But the process is same.
Okay. No,
Requirement is
sorry.
the process is
Yeah.
same. But tools are
Yeah.
different. That's it.
Yeah. So my concern is what? See, I'm completely non-IT background, means works in the core domain actually. Okay.
Okay.
So I don't have a IT background, means development testing. I don't have it. Okay.
Okay.
So the means recruiter will consider me how it is. Yeah, I don't have issues as a fresher
Yeah,
also.
Hello.
yeah, yeah. Here I'm teaching this entire session
Mhm.
based on the people who came from IT background and who came from non-IT background. So we need to
Okay.
consider both guys. So
Okay.
our
Mhm.
main preference is to, I mean, we will be considering non-IT background guys because
Okay.
they feel somewhat difficult to coming up with this particular technology because they don't have any idea on it. But if you
Yes.
consider people who came from a technical background or IT background, for them it
Mhm.
will be pretty easy to understand the concepts. So
Okay.
our main goal is to concentrate on this non-IT background people. So whatever the topics that we are going to discuss, everything we are going to start with the scratch level. Okay.
Okay. Will
So
yeah, will the company will consider us
yes, yes. If
because
you are, yeah, if you are confident with your concepts, what we are going to discuss as part of this entire course, then definitely they
uh-huh.
will.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Thank you. We can go
Hello.
ahead.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, sir. Are you getting me, sir?
Yeah, yeah. I can hear you.
Sir, actually, my question is here we are discussing only DevOps, na, sir, or with AWS.
Sorry, your voice is breaking in between.
Sir, actually, my question
Including
is
AWS, DevOps with AWS.
DevOps with AWS. So, what are
Yes,
the services
yes,
are
yes.
there
This
in
this
DevOps
entire
and
course combination. Yeah, yeah. That I'm going to explain in the coming next slide.
okay, okay, sir.
So this is only the
Sir,
introduction
Python is
for DevOps. Okay. Python. Yeah, if you know Python, it will be an added advantage, but it's not mandatory to know Python. So we have a lot of opportunities without Python.
but I learned Python, but I didn't.
Yeah,
Okay, okay,
if
sir.
you know
But
Python, it will be an advantage for you.
I didn't use Python, sir. I just
Yeah, yeah. That's what. If you know Python, it will be like an advantage for you, but it's
learned
not a
Python. That's it.
mandatory. So if you have a shell script knowledge, and if you have
Hello.
a Groovy language, or if you have a YAML language, these are the main things that will be sufficient for us.
Okay.
Yeah, and those language you are going to cover in these sessions, right?
Yes, those
Okay, sir.
things we are going to cover from scratch.
Okay. Thank
Yeah, hi
Sir,
Surya.
AWS is different, no, sir?
Yeah, it's a cloud environment. That also I'm going to explain
Hello.
you.
Okay.
YAML is for Ansible, right?
I think.
Yes, AML we use for three cases. One is for Ansible. In the other one is for Docker Compose files, and also we can use it in Kubernetes.
Yeah, Surya Ram here.
Yeah, Ram.
I request you to be clear that some concept like not each and every concept because people are coming from different background,
Yes,
so
yes,
they don't have much knowledge on that. Like
yes.
if you are explain the concept very clearly, then it will be very helpful for them, and they can go for the next level.
Definitely.
Like because now you have explained what is the DevOps, right? So
Yeah.
it's like I can understood that concept, but little bit that it is not that way easy way. It is something like confusing. I'm not pointing here. I'm just telling the
No,
con.
that's the reason why I've given you the information what they used
Yeah.
to follow earlier before DevOps
Mm.
and how DevOps is, I mean, using DevOps, we can able to overcome that particular drawback. So that's the reason I have explained you. So the flow,
Yeah.
are you
Yeah. That's
expecting
fine.
more detailed way
Yeah.
or
Sorry, come again.
are you expecting something more detailed? I think that
No, not for me. That I know that because like people are from different background and who
yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
have
yeah.
that knowledge on IT.
Yeah, I agree
They
with that.
can.
I agree with that. Initially, they'll face some issues in understanding these concepts. I request any one of you, like if you don't understand any concept, you can stop me there itself and you can ask me so that I can try to give more examples so that it will be easy for you to understand them.
Yeah, that was my request, sir.
Okay, definitely. Um,
Sir, one more thing, sir. Sir, DevOps is come in admin side or developing side, sir?
So 60% of the topics will be from the admin side, like operation side, not admin. Operations is different and admin is different. So 60%
Okay,
of the work will be concentrating on operation side and 40% work will be on the development side.
okay, sir. So we need programming language minimum is compulsory, na, sir?
No, no, no. It's
Programming
not
side.
compulsory. It's just a basic idea. Like in order to build your code, so what's the
Scripting
command
knowledge.
we're
Sorry.
supposed to use? Yes, what's the command we're supposed to use, and what happening when we execute this command and all. So that information you can easily get it from the developers because they are responsibility to give you that information.
Okay, okay, sir.
Yeah.
Okay,
Hi,
thank you.
sure. I have a question. I would like to know in order to automate some task in DevOps. So I went through the content of this course. I would like to know which kind of um language, like a scripting language, we are going to learn in this course exactly. Like which one
As already
you are planning
mentioned,
to show.
so we are
Okay.
going to cover three types of languages. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
scripting languages. I mean to say, one is a shell scripting, Groovy, and YAML.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sir, what is the main difference between DevOps with Azure and DevOps with AWS?
That I will explain in the coming next slides. The concepts behind, like the flow will be obviously same, but the cloud environment that they are using will be different. Like if you are using AWS cloud, so the services that we use on AWS will be slightly different. And Azure is totally focusing on .NET projects, and AWS is mainly focused on Java-based projects or other types of languages except Azure, I mean, except .NET. So as we know, Azure is a part of Microsoft, so they're mainly focusing on .NET applications. And
And process is same, right, Surya?
flow and
AWS.
process will be same,
Okay.
but the terms, like in Azure we call it a different term, and here we call it with a different name. But the
Okay. Yeah,
concepts
that
are
internal
yes,
service and operations and it
yes.
might be
Service
different.
names will be different, but the process
Yeah.
will be okay.
Uh, Hi,
Let's
Surya
continue.
here.
Yeah, yeah. Any other questions?
What is the duration of the course, sir? And
That I'll explain at the end of this session. Okay, after
okay,
completion of the entire part, and then I'll give you that information at the end.
okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. So let's continue. So these are all the key benefits of using DevOps. So it reduces the implementation time for new services. Earlier, it used to take months. As I told you, if I follow the manual approach, it used to take months, and that entire duration got reduced to minutes. And because of that reason, we can easily focus on a new productivity, like new futures. Okay, for example, I developed one application and I want to add some extra features on it. So I can do some kind of R&D stuff on it. So because I'm getting some time on it, so that I can I can spend my time on doing this R&D stuff, so that the productivity will be obviously increases. Okay, and it also saves cost for maintaining or upgradation purpose. Like if you want to upgrade an application from one version to the other version, it also very simply you can do that. Okay, so and also it helps you to deliver your application in a very fast manner. Okay, so these are the key benefits of using DevOps. And now this is what the DevOps lifecycle is going to look like. So here this entire task will be taken care by the development team, and this entire task will be taken care by the operation team. Okay, so planning and the code development, build and test. These are the tasks that developers will be taking care. And the release part, that like deploying the application. I mean, they're going to release this application and they're going to deploy it, and they'll operate, like operation in the sense they'll uh, check whether this application is working fine or not, and they'll try to test it in different tools. Using different tools, they're going to test this application, and then they'll monitor this application. So these are the tasks that an operation guy is to take care. Okay, and now let's talk about the other concept called CI and CD. So CI, first let me explain what is meant by integration first, and then I'll go with a continuous integration. So CI stands for continuous integration. So as already told you before, here if you check whatever the things that you see here on the left side, so this entire flow we call it as integration, like plan, developing of your code, build and test. So this entire process we call it as integration. Okay, so plan, code, build and test, these all tasks we call it as integration. Okay, if I do it in manual way, so then I will call it as integration. Now the same process, if I automate it, okay, without any human interaction, if I automate this entire process, so once the plan is done, the coding, anyway coding will be developed by the developer itself, we can't automate that. But once the coding part is done, so this build and test we can automate it. So if you automate this entire process, then that same thing we call it as continuous integration. Okay, the same way CD stands for continuous deployment, and on the right side of this image, on the right side, whatever the tools or whatever the task that you see here, the same task, deploy, operate and monitor. So this entire process we call it as deployment, and once you automate this process, then we call it as continuous deployment. Okay, so in detail you will be getting this information in detail when the topic, I mean when we start discussing on that topic in the entire course duration. So I'll creating different types of jobs with respect to CI and with respect to CD as well. Okay, fine. Now let's discuss about the tools that we are going to cover as part of this entire course, and also the tools that are available in the market, and also the tools that we are going to cover. So first let's talk about the version control tool. So version control tools are used to store your source code. Okay, so source code in the sense, for example, let's assume there are three different people, okay, three different developers working on same application. Okay, they are working totally individual. Like I have given one task to developer one, and the second task to developer two, and the third task to developer three. So they're totally working individual. But at the end, I need to combine all these three developers code in order to get my final output. Okay, so in that case, for example, I don't have this version control tools and all. What they will do, they will simply store their application code in their own laptop. Unfortunately, one of the developer is not available to share his developed code with me. So I'm trying to reach him, but still I'm not able to get him. So what happens in that case? I can't develop the application because the the application development will be delayed because one of the developer is not available and the code is not available, first of all, right? So in order to avoid this kind of scenarios, what I can do, I can create this version control tool, and I can ask developers, after once you are done with your code development, please upload your code to this location. Okay, so I can ask each and every developer to upload their code in that location, so that once, even though the developer is not available, I can get that particular code from that location. So that shared location, we call it as version control tool. Okay, so and also the other advantage of using this version control tool is it will track all the changes that you are doing. Like for example, in so and so file, I'm making some change. After 1 month or after 1 year, if I want to identify that change, I can go to history and I can check what change that I made, in which line, in which file. Okay, it will store both the values, like old change as well as the new change. Okay, so it will track each and every line of your change. That's the other advantage of using this version control tool. So we have 3 important version control tools available in the market: Git, SVN, Subversion, we also call it as SVN, and CVS. And we are going to concentrate on Git. As part of this course, we are going to start with Git topic. Okay, and if you are using Git, you should have a web-based Git repositories. So some are based on cloud and some are based on on-prem. Okay, so on-prem in the sense you have to install these tools on a particular server. So that case we call it as on-prem. Cloud in the sense we don't require to install it anyway. So you can directly open the web browser and from there you can directly access your code. Okay, so here GitLab is having both on-prem as well as cloud service. GitHub is having cloud, and Bitbucket is purely an on-prem application. You have to install it on some server. So why do we use this web-based Git repositories in the sense? So Git is a tool where you execute some commands. It's a command line terminal where you execute some commands. But if I want to see my code in a graphical interface, so I need to integrate Git with any of these web-based Git repositories. So I'm going to cover GitHub because GitHub is hosted on cloud and we can simply create an account and we can start using it. Okay, so the next slide would be AWS. I'm going to explain different services from AWS. I just list out. AWS is a cloud environment where we don't require to use any infrastructure. Earlier they used to use the infrastructure from the data centers, but once AWS is available and started giving service, so maintaining your infrastructure is very simple. You can simply launch your infrastructure within minutes. But earlier, if I want to launch one application server on a data center, so it used to follow the huge process. Like I need to raise a request, and that request will be taken care by the some different teams, and finally it reaches to the data center, and they will add one physical server for that, and they will be giving those details. So there is a lot of process whenever I want to get an infrastructure from a data center. But after getting this AWS, it went into a within minutes I can do I can create my infrastructure. So those kind of feasibilities that we have with AWS. So this entire course, whatever the infra that we are going to use throughout this entire course, all those infra we are going to take it from AWS itself. And also I'm going to cover few concepts from AWS like EC2, VPC, subnets, routing table configurations, internet gateway, um, ELB, elastic load balancing concepts, auto scaling group, and also Route 53 configurations, RDS, etc., etc. So we are going to concentrate on many more services that are available, and the most important services. These are all the most important services. So those things we are concentrating on, and yeah. So these are all the services that we are going to cover as part of this course.
Yeah.
And
Hi, Surya.
yeah,
Yeah. Regarding this AWS, you are covering complete AWS contents or only the overviews of means main topics, how it will be?
I'm
Yeah.
going to cover main topics, not the
Okay,
entire
not
AWS
complete.
services, because
Okay, okay,
AWS itself is a big ocean. So we have more than
okay.
1,500 services available in AWS at the moment. So
Oh,
it's
isn't
very
it?
difficult to concentrate on all these services. So we are mainly concentrating on the services which are relevant to our DevOps technology or DevOps tools.
Okay, okay. So
Okay.
means there'll be different like DevOps plus AWS, and AWS job profile is different and
Yes,
DevOps is job
we
profile
have a
will be different.
specific profile for AWS, which covers the main entire things will be under AWS itself. Like I've shown you Git, right? So there is a one
Yes.
service, the same whatever the
Mm.
task that we are going to do with Git, the same thing you can do it with AWS service.
Okay, 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 fine.
The
Okay,
same
sure.
way I have Jenkins. So using Jenkins, I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to execute CI/CD pipelines. So the same thing you can also
Mm-hmm.
do it with the AWS service itself.
Okay, okay.
So each and every tool that I'm explaining here. So for these tools,
Mm.
there is a service in AWS, but we are not going to concentrate on those services.
Okay,
Okay.
fine, sure. Okay.
Now let's discuss about integration tools, and these tools are very, very important in DevOps point of view, because whatever the execution or whatever the tasks that we already discussed regarding CI, CD, so these entire concepts that we are going to implement using these tools. And there are different tools available like Jenkins, Bamboo, Continuous Delivery, TeamCity, etc. But we are mainly concentrate on Jenkins. The reason is Jenkins is an open source tool. So we don't require to spend any single rupee to install this application and use this application. It's an open source tool which is developed on based on Java. Okay. So if you install Java, automatically you can also get this installation very easily. And it is compatible with any sort of platform. Okay, you can install it on Linux, Mac, Windows, any platform you can install. So that's the other advantage of using this application. Okay, so we have lot of concepts in this Jenkins, like multi-branch pipelines, declarative pipelines, and freestyle jobs, Maven projects, different plugins concepts, role-based strategy concepts. There are different concepts behind this. So 20 to 30% of the concepts we are going to cover from Jenkins itself. So if you are perfect with Jenkins, you will be having a lot of opportunities for sure, because this is a very important tool. So that's the reason we call Jenkins as a heart of DevOps. Okay. Now the next tool is compilation tool. So as I already told you before, developers are going to develop the code in a text formatted file, and this text formatted file we have to convert into a binary formatted file. So during this binary conversion, we have to compile this code, then only you're going to get the binary formatted file. And for compilation, we use these tools based upon the language. We choose the tool, like for example, if it is a Java, either you can go with Ant or you can go with Maven. If you're going with C language, you can go with CMake. If you go with .NET, we have MS Build available. So based upon the language, I mean, which language of code that you're using, so that particular build tool will be available. So we are going to cover about Maven, because most of the Java projects are running with Maven only. So that's the reason we are going to concentrate on Maven part. Okay. And the next one is artifact storage repository. So after the compilation completes, you're getting an artifact, like you're getting a binary formatted file. So this binary formatted file, we call it as artifact. So if I want to store this binary formatted file, um, in order to have a future reference, so I can use this artifact storage repository. So I can store either on Nexus or Active Factory. These are two different tools. So we are going to cover Nexus because Nexus is having open source and a paid version, but whereas Artifactory is fully paid version. Whatever the tools that I'm explaining now, so all these tools are absolutely free. We don't require to pay any single rupee for these tools. Okay, so that's the reason we have taken these kind of tools, so that it will be easy for you to understand and it will be easy for you to install and you can start working on these tools. And most of the cases, most of the projects also, they are using these same tools because these tools are open source tools. Okay, and coming to the next part called configuration management tool. So configuration management tool basically used for deployment of your application. So deployment in the sense, your binary file is ready. Now you have to run this binary file on some application server, right? So how you're going to run? So what we will be, there will be some sort of commands to execute in order to run this binary file. So those commands you have to execute on the application server after copying this binary file to that server, right? So this we call it as a deployment process. Okay, so in real time you may have one server to deploy or you may have multiple servers to deploy. So if I have one server, I can directly connect to the server and I can do the deployment. But if you have multiple servers and you have to do the deployment at the same time on all the servers, so in that case you need this configuration management tool here. Like for example, if I have one task that I supposed to execute, so manually, for me I took almost 5 minutes to complete the task on one server. The same task I supposed to execute on 10 servers. So what happens? So I have to connect with individual server and I have to execute the same commands and all. So for each server, 5 minutes, then it will be around 50 minutes to complete, right? So I'm also spending a lot of effort and also spending a lot of time here. So in order to avoid these kind of situations, we can use configuration management tools, which will connect with all the 10 servers at a time. And whatever the task that you mentioned, the entire task will be executed on all the 10 servers. So less than 5 minutes, it will be. So that's the main advantage of using configuration management tool. Basically, we use this configuration management tool to change some configurations on the target servers, to deploy applications on the target server. These are the main two requirements to use this configuration management tools. And if you check here, so there are three tools available in the market: Ansible, Chef, and Puppet. And we are going to concentrate on Ansible because almost all the Linux environments are integrated with Ansible, so it will be very easy to understand, or it will be very easy to make use of this Ansible part. And next one would be orchestration tool. So this orchestration tool is nothing but here earlier whatever the applications that we have, so this entire, in order to run this entire application, we used to have huge infrastructure, but now everything got changed, and within instantly you can launch new infrastructure or new application. So that is happening because of the containers concept. Here containers are nothing but, in order to run your application, for example, I have an application called ABC, and this application I want to run. So in order to run that application, what do I require? For example, if it is a Java based application, I need Java to be installed, and in order to install Java, I need a server, right? So these are all the requirements that I supposed to have in order to run my application, right? Now whatever the requirements that are required in order to run your application, those things will be packed as an image format, like application as a layer, and on top of it Java, because in order to run application we require Java, that is another layer, and server. Here server will also be as a layer. Okay, all these layers packed together in a form of container, sorry, in a form of image. And if you start running that image, then we call it as a container. Okay, you can run the same image on any platform. Like I can run this image on Windows, I can run the same image on Linux, I can run the same image on Mac, but the performance will be same because it doesn't depend on your OS on which you are running this container. It depends on the image, I mean container server. Okay, inside the container you're going to have one server. Okay, it depends on that server. Okay, so that's the concept behind this container. At the moment, if I give more information, you guys will definitely confuse. So when we start discussing about this Docker, I can show you practically how the containers are going to look like. Then you'll get a better idea.
Surya,
Yeah.
that container Kubernetes means what I understood, that ISO format, right? Image format. So that
Isolation
image
format.
format, yeah,
Isolation
that we
format.
are running in multiple server. Like we are running one server at the same time we'll be running another server. So that
Yeah,
one,
on server we are running a container. Inside this
yeah,
container is going to have another server.
yeah,
Okay? On that
yeah, okay,
container server, we are running your actual application.
yeah, okay,
Okay, so
yeah,
that
yeah,
single server you can run multiple containers, so that multiple applications you can handle it. Okay,
yeah, okay,
and
okay,
when it comes to orchestration tool, we need some setup where you are going to maintain multiple containers, like 100 containers or 200 containers. So these orchestration tool will help you to maintain these 100 to 200 containers. Okay,
okay,
so
yeah,
we have two important tools. One is Docker. So in Docker, the orchestration tool we call it as Docker Swarm. Okay, and in Kubernetes is also an orchestration tool. As part of this course, we are going to concentrate on both Docker Swarm as well as Kubernetes, because these are very important tools that are available currently in the market. So that's the reason I'm going to concentrate on both Docker Swarm as well as the Kubernetes. Okay, and the concept behind these are similar, and even if you observe, commands will also almost similar, but tools are different. That's it. And the next tool is a Sonar Cube tool. Sonar Cube is basically used to check the quality of the code. Like in your code level, you might have bugs, or you might have vulnerabilities. Vulnerability in this, in the sense, for example, if any one of your developer expose some sort of passwords in the code level, so that we call it as vulnerability, because it is a kind of security related issues. Like when a hacker is trying to hack your application, so they'll try to get the weakest point from your application. Okay, so the weakest point will be whenever you expose some passwords, so that would be the weakest point. So it will identify those kind of weakest points, and it will alert you before you deploy your application. Okay, so this is a tool which help you to identify the quality of your code. Okay, that we are going to discuss. And monitoring tools. So monitoring tools, as you already know, that these tools will help you to monitor your application servers. So if you're running your application on a particular server, in that server is down, you should get an alert. You should come to know, okay, this server is not running. So how you're going to get that? So based on the monitoring tool, you're going to get an alert, so that you can take an immediate action to bring that server up and running. Okay, so we have two tools, that is Nagios and Jabix. So these two tools we can use. I mean, these two tools are used for a monitoring purpose. And as part of this course, we are going to concentrate on Nagios part. Okay, And the next one is Terraform. So recently we added this because this is one of the important tool where we can easily manage your infrastructure. So Terraform is a tool which helps you to manage the entire application infrastructure. Like for example, you're running some application and that application is giving access to the end customer. Okay, so let's suppose this application can handle 10 users. Okay, just give me a minute. For example, this application can able to handle 10 users. Now I want to I mean the number of users are getting increased almost close to 10. What happens? The application will hang. Now I need an immediate replication, I mean support for this application. I need one more server which will support for this application. So in that case, how can I bring this entire application up and running again with an instant time? So if I go with a manual approach, what I'll do, I'll have to launch one more infra, and then on top of it, I need to install these applications, and then I need to bring that application. But if you go with Terraform, so the entire infrastructure will be in the form of script. Okay, so once you run that, automatically your Terraform script, I mean your infrastructure will be up and running, and immediately it will be connected to the server. So that's the advantage of using Terraform. So we have a concept called cloud formation in AWS. The same thing can be done with cloud formation, but cloud formation is only fixed with AWS, but Terraform is also can be implemented on Azure, GCP, and different platforms. So that's the other advantage of using Terraform. So these are all the tools that we are going to cover. Any sort of questions, if you have, you can ask me now.
Yeah, so
Hello.
yes, sir.
Hello.
Yeah.
Whatever the topics that would be covered into the entire course, will that be helpful to portray as an experience of a 3 to 4 years of experience,
Yes.
or
Yes. That will be sufficient for 3 to 4 years of experience.
okay, sir. So
So
will
you
there
will be
be
providing.
Sorry.
will there be
Surya, are you covering both practical and as well as
Yes.
theoretical?
Yes, practical and theoretical, and I'm going to cover 2 projects as part of this course.
Okay.
So Surya, it will be on real. You will get a real knowledge, no? Means like
Yes.
practical
Yes.
knowledge about the real
Yes.
environment.
Yeah. Absolutely. You will be getting practical knowledge as well. So I'm going to show you how the real-time application is going to look like, and different layers of application, and how we are going to connect these application layers and all.
So after this course, we can if they can do if the company has deployed me in any project, so we can easily work out on that one.
Yes, if you have a same set of tools, then definitely you can work. If it is, if in case like if you are using a different set of tools, initially you have to understand how the tool works, and then after you will be easy. Like the concept, as I told you before, the concept will be similar, but the tool might be different.
Okay.
For example, some people will use Git and some people will use SVN. So Git and SVN both are used for the same purpose, in order to store your code, but the tool will
So
be
you
different.
mean to say, yeah, only the application will be the difference, and the working concept will be will be same.
Yes.
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hi,
Yeah.
Surya. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, so my question is, will you cover GitHub Action in this course?
GitHub. Yes, we are going to
GitHub,
cover
GitHub
GitHub.
and GitHub
No, we
and
are
GitHub
going to
Action.
no GitHub action. So we are going to cover Git with the GitHub.
Okay. And will you cover like Jenkins integration with the GitHub
Yes,
CI/CD with the
yes,
Docker or Kubernetes like this?
yes. I'm going to cover.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, Surya. In
Yeah.
the AWS cloud services, are you going to teach EKS application?
No, not EKS. I'm going to show you how Kubernetes is going to be installed on a on-premises server
Okay.
using command.
Okay.
If you want, I can also explain you on EKS. It's not a big deal.
Okay.
So if you want the EKS service also, I can give you an information on that.
Yeah, EKS one would be much better.
Yeah, definitely.
What will
Which
be
will
the course
be
duration then? Tell me.
the same question.
The course duration will be 45 days to 50 days. I mean, 50
Okay,
hours.
including 50 hours.
Yes, 50 hours.
Okay, including the
Project and
okay,
because
DevOps plus
while we are
AWS.
discussing about the tool, there
Uh,
and then itself we are going to handle this project.
Okay, fine.
And may I know what would be the weekday patch, sir, or weekend batch? Is it a weekday patch or weekend batch?
It's weekdays batch.
So Monday to Friday, same
Yes,
timing, sir.
yes,
Okay.
Only Monday to Friday, daily 1 hour class, or how it is?
yes. Daily 1 hour.
Okay. What will be the timing?
8 to 9.
8 to 9. Okay.
Sir, you are covering Linux also, sir.
Yes. I'm going to cover Linux as well. We are going to have
So
a sessions on Linux.
prerequisites as well. Like to get into this course, there are no prerequisites, right, sir?
Yeah, at the moment we don't have. Like we are going to cover everything from scratch. And if you want to know in detail, you can also get some information from the internet. Like almost 80% of the concept we are going to cover. That 20% you can get it from the internet.
Like
Okay.
about
Sir,
what,
one more
sir?
question, sir.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Just now, one of my friend asked that 3 to 4 years experience it is enough.
Yes.
Is any more requirement to learn, sir? Expect these topics what you are covering.
I mean, most
Hello.
of the topics we are going to cover as part of this course. Like, I mean, the person who is expertised in 3 to 4 years of experience. So for that purpose, we are going to cover the entire course. But if you want to learn something more, definitely you can learn. Like you can get a lot of information from Google. If you want, I can give you some URLs where you will get more information about the tool. Like I'm going to cover two projects. If you want to practice on few more projects, that information you can directly get it from the internet.
Okay, you will help me now, sir, on that. In that case.
Yes, I can help you on that.
So what would be the
Thank you.
project that we'll be working on, sir? Can you give a overview about it, sir?
It's an internal project. So we have a project with respect to this Visualpath. So it's a purely an internal project.
So every real-time scenario would be covered in that project, sir.
Yes.
Like how to build a small RESTful APIs and how to what you
Yes.
call
We have
hosting
a source
application.
code available, and based on that source code, this entire application will be developed.
And will we be covering the Docker and Kubernetes using the
Yes.
PostgreSQL? What
Not
would be the
Postgres.
database?
It's an MySQL database we are using here.
So that would be similar with PostgreSQL, sir.
Yeah, I mean databases. We have different types of databases available, like Aurora DB, PostGIT. The tools here also the tools are different, but as our application is integrated with MySQL, so we are going to concentrate on that.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. What we are discussing in this video live classes, sir. Will you
Okay.
provide this video, sir?
Yes, every session will be recorded and this recording will be shared with you. It's a
Okay.
kind of lifetime.
Why?
Also,
Yes, yes.
this institute is providing you 20 real-time projects available. So those videos also will be provided.
Okay. Sir, there is no need for any running notes, sir.
Sorry?
Running notes, running notes.
I mean, you can, if you want, you can take it. That's up to your opinion.
Okay.
But this video will be, this video will be shared with you.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Yes, yes, Surya, what's the time duration of class every day?
Every day 1 hour, 8 to 9 p.m.
Okay, in 1 hour, you can tell the class. Then what about doubts? If we get any
Yeah,
doubts
no, the
regarding
same
to the
session
class?
itself. In the same session itself, we can also discuss about the doubts. If in case like if you have more doubts now, I can also extend the session till 9:30 or 10 o'clock as well.
Okay, what is the course duration? Up to 3 hours or sorry, the 3 months or 2 months?
It will be like 45 to 50 hours.
Okay,
Okay, so on all weekends. Sorry, weekdays. Sorry, weekdays, not weekends.
okay. Saturday and Sunday there will be no any class, right?
Yes.
Okay, Monday to Friday.
Yeah.
Okay, Surya, thank you.
Any other questions?
No any questions from my side, Surya. Thank you for your great class.
Thank you, guys. So for any queries, you can reach out to the management. They can give you more information on that. So from tomorrow onwards, the session will be regular, like 8 to 9 p.m. So you can join the session and you can we can start with the first topic, that is about Git. Okay. Thank you, guys.
Okay, Surya.
Thanks for joining. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Wish you the same.
Thank you, Surya. I wish you the same.